All right, so let's talk about another major move by President Donald Trump. He spoke at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland earlier today. There's some major people there watching that remote address. He talked to some of the most influential global leaders as part of his first major speech to them with an invite. And here it is: do business in the USA or else. Listen.
My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury to strengthen our economy and pay down debt. Under the Trump administration, there will be no better place on earth to create jobs, build factories, or grow a company than right here in the good old USA.
So let's go live to CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. All right, so Ed, he said the words, "if you don't," which caused me to be sort of struck when the question and answer started to happen there from these global leaders to see that it was a rather warm reception, even though Trump said, "if you don't."
Well, these are business leaders who understand he's negotiating and hasn't implemented any of this yet. He's just making the statements that if you don't, this might happen. The business community has been adjusting certainly to deal with the Trump administration and anticipated this kind of an answer, as he's signaled, as he has over the last several weeks, that there are going to be tariffs if other countries aren't willing to cut a deal or be fair to the United States. Mexico and Canada, as early as February 1st. Tariffs against China remain a real possibility, which would certainly upset or affect the most critical global relationship. But the president also signaling that in his first phone call with a world leader to Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, that country signaled it's willing to make at least a $600 billion investment, something Trump said he's going to try to get up to about $1 trillion. We'll see if that happens. So look, he's trying to demonstrate in week one that he can talk tough to the world and get things done and get the world and this country more focused on an American-focused manufacturing sector. And if not, they should expect consequences. Channeling what he had been saying all throughout the campaign he would do.
Ed, let's, to your point about that phone call with the Saudi leader, we want to go ahead and let our viewers hear that. Let's go ahead and play.
Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America, but I'll be asking the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic guy, to round it out to around $1 trillion. I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them. And I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down.
All right. So, Ed, how do you feel like that was received?
Hard to read the room not being there. That is not a plea to send me to Switzerland. But they seemed rather receptive generally to his remarks, and the fact that he made the time at all in this busy week seems to have pleased them. We'll have to wait and see what Saudi Arabia and those OPEC oil-producing countries make of his statement. They don't normally take cues from an American president, no matter who he is, about oil production or the cost of it. And, remains to be seen what exactly they say. On the point about Russia and Ukraine, however, he did suggest, quite notably, that he thinks that there will be some kind of an agreement. And he said, quote, "Ukraine is ready to make a deal." That is a stark rhetorical and sort of strategic departure from what the last American president said. Remember, he used to say nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, which is to suggest I'm not going to speak for them. Today, Trump seemed to suggest that there's a deal to be had because they're ready to. That would be news to the rest of the world, since Ukraine hasn't necessarily signaled it that explicitly. But he also suggested he's eager to speak with Russian President Putin about all this in hopes that they can cut a deal, arguing that if there is one, that too would contribute to lower oil prices and might drive that conflict to an end.
So many fascinating developments and so much to track. Ed O'Keefe, we're glad you're doing it in real time for us. Have a great day. Thank you so much.